Today on the Income Protection Journal podcast, we're sitting down with Gretchen Rosenberg. Gretchen is president and CEO of Kentwood Real Estate, a luxury brokerage that serves communities across Colorado's Front Range, Denver to Boulder, Fort Collins to Colorado Springs, and into the mountain communities of Summit and Grand counties. Kentwood is Colorado's exclusive affiliate of Home Services of America and is one of the largest residential real estate companies in the country. For nearly 30 years, Gretchen has built her career in an industry where income is never salary-based and never guaranteed. Real estate is pure production. You earn what you close, and you don't earn what you can't. She's led a firm of independent agents who depend entirely on their ability to show up, build relationships, and get deals done. That gives Gretchen a perspective most of us don't think about. What happens to high earners when the thing that generates their income suddenly stops? Not because the market crashes, but because they physically or mentally can't do the work. She sees the full spectrum, the assumptions professionals make about their financial safety nets, the gaps that only become visible after something goes wrong, and the reality of protecting an income that doesn't come with corporate benefits package. This is a conversation about what it means to earn well and still be vulnerable. So let's get into it. So welcome, Gretchen.
Hey, thanks, Jamie.
So I'm so excited to have you on the show. So we met I think it's been 30 years. I think we both worked in the Rollnick building together. So
Was 30 years. Yeah.
I know because your son was just a little baby. So
yes.
I
And he's
remember.
31.
Yes. I think it's been about 30 years. And so I've kind of seen your whole career, really the whole spectrum of it. So it's really exciting. So you've spent 30 years in residential real estate, and today now you're running this really great big luxury brokerages. So for people who don't know the industry, can you walk us through kind of how income actually works in real estate? Is it totally commission, or how do people sort of get started?
Unless you're an employee like I am now, but when I started, as you know, I was an independent contractor. I was an agent. How does it work? They're all independent contractors. They're entrepreneurs, and they affiliate with their brokerage. And largely brokerages work with 1099 independent contractors. There are a few brokerages out there that have employed agents, but that's pretty rare. That's not the typical model. And so an agent is in an arrangement, an independent contractor agreement with their brokerage that outlines what their agreement states in terms of what their earnings would be based on the commission or the compensation that comes in. They go out, they work with a buyer, they work with a seller, they have an agreement with that client to represent they have a fiduciary duty to represent those clients. And for that, they'll be paid compensation, they'll be compensated, or commission as some people call it. And then that's split with the brokerage. So based on the agreement, that's split with the brokerage. And then the agent is responsible for paying all their taxes, all their insurance. They have no benefits. They have no health insurance. They have no life insurance. It's all on them to pay for all of their operating expenses, their marketing. I mean, the thing I think a lot of people see real estate agents as being so successful because they watch these TV shows, $1 million listing, and
Oh
think
yeah,
of
absolutely.
making millions
Yes.
of dollars. And that not everyone is the Kardashians of real estate, and they work hard.
Yeah.
And they pay for all of that listing marketing upfront out of their pocket, whether or not that house sells.
Wow. So they really are independent contractors, but they work in a brokerage like yours for just sort of having a sort of a community and support and people to help
Right.
them.
Yeah, it's a partnership. So we're here with all of the software they need, with the transaction coordinators and the marketing coordinators and a full marketing team. We're a very full service brokerage. Not all are the same. There's just soup to nuts, all kinds of brokers, but we're a full service broker. So our agents get a lot of support. And our theory is we'll do all of that office stuff, and you can go out and either have a life and have a family or have time to be generating and prospecting for more business.
Yeah. So do you take care of like staffing
Yeah.
and the photography and those types of things, or do they
They
pay?
handle the photography. Yeah, good question. At our brokerage, I'm not speaking for everyone because it's not universal. But yeah, they will hire their photographer. They all have their favorite photographer, but we'll enter their listing into the MLS. We'll upload the photos. We'll make their brochures. We take care of the contract software that they use. We we pay for and support that. The CRM, we provide them a CRM so they can do their marketing out of their CRM. And
So
yeah,
it's tough. So for realtors, I mean, it's pretty much you are successful if you make a sale. So you for year to year, it can really go up and down.
wildly. They have, well, one of the things our managing brokers are tasked with is helping coach our agents to smooth out that really up and down income. Because what agents typically do is they get super busy. So they're working in their business, running around, going to inspections, going to showings, writing contracts, and then they're not working on their business. And then all of a sudden, it drops off. They have all their closings. Now they're saying, oh my God, I've got no income for the
I
next
have
three
no
months.
listings, I have no buyers. Yeah.
Right. And so then they're like, I have to work on my business. And so we're trying to constantly help them remember and be mindful of the fact that if you're not working on your business, you're not going to have a business to work in a few months.
So how do you help them stay? So that kind of helps them stay more consistent
Correct.
because if you're not prospecting, you're only as
Right.
good as your last sale. Yeah.
That's right. And every
Yeah.
January, it doesn't matter whether it's our top producers or our, more newbie agents. Every January, they're all freaking out like, oh my God, it's the new year. I have no business. And they always do. I
And
mean, we
it's a
have such
quiet time of year for
success.
real estate anyway. Don't they say until after the Super Bowl?
Yes,
Like that's
that's
when
what
things start to pick up.
exactly. That's what
Now,
we
what
say.
about like in times of just like the actual marketplace when there's ups and downs and interest rates or
Mhm.
things that are happening just outside their control? How do they kind of manage that?
They have ups and downs, but it's incumbent on them, and the successful ones do it to build a resilient business.
Yeah.
I mean, you know this, you're also in your own business. And if you
Yeah.
don't build a resilient business, it's very difficult to weather market shifts. And we've had some huge ones in 2021, end of 2020 through, the early 22, it was nuts. I mean, they were so busy, some of them didn't have a year off. They literally worked
Oh, so it was nuts
365.
busy wise. I wasn't like, because
Crazy
2020
busy.
was probably terrible.
It was the second half of 2020. It took off. It just
Wow.
out of a cannon. And then rates started going up in 2022. Everybody had moved to where they thought they needed to be. Household formation slowed. And all of a sudden, the market slowed dramatically. In 24 and 25, we were quite down. We had some down years. And so we've seen that, that we've seen this.
And the people that have been a lot around long enough know when things are really top, they could go down and vice versa, that it's a cycle. But the
They
new
know.
ones are probably like, oh, wow, I'm doing great. I'm never going to have to worry again. And
Yeah.
yeah, not necessarily. So how do people, so I mean, there's the ups and downs because of the marketplace, but what about like, what happens when somebody is sick or injured and they're not able to work? Have you seen that happen to any of the realtors?
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, I shouldn't even be smiling because I've seen some really sad things happen, and it's because they're unprepared. Um, there have been many times, Jamie, when I've told people to call you and get prepared. Or we have now through our Home Services of America, we also have benefits for agents that most companies don't. We don't offer paid benefits, but there's a vehicle for them
Voluntary.
to
Yeah.
go. Yeah, right. And it's so important because I know someone who, this was a number of years ago, but she lost her house to IRS liens because she hadn't been on top of paying her taxes, and they have to pay their taxes, and they're not, they get they get a big commission check, and then they go and they spend it. And they haven't saved for their taxes.
Oh
So
gosh.
that happens. And, we've had sadly a number of people who have been stricken with illnesses and they can't work. And if they don't have a spouse who's also employed or some sort of safety net, it's really can lead to some difficult
So
times.
what happens to those people if they can't work, if they're sick or injured?
They
Does somebody, I mean, do you have people in the office that can do the work for them or?
Actually, what we do, that's such a good point. We have an amazing team. Our culture is so supportive. So technically they're competitors, but at Kentwood Real Estate, they don't look at it like that. And we had someone who was sick last year and everybody said, I'll go show houses for her. I'm
Mhm.
happy, I will handle that contract for her.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time. So we really do, everyone does pitch in. We also have a foundation. We started the Kentwood Cares Foundation about 5 years ago, and that foundation supports outside initiatives in the community for housing and housing equity and housing education. But it also has kind of a secondary task with supporting internal candidates from within the company, both employees and agents who are having a rough time, and we'll give them a small kind of interim grant to get them through some rough times. And we've granted people with cancer, car accidents,
Oh, wow.
all kinds of different situations where they needed this interim grant. And so Kentwood Cares Foundation has really been meaningful for a lot of our people.
That's nice. Have
Mhm.
you seen things from the other perspective of maybe people who bought a house and they buy, you do luxury homes and they have this big mortgage and some they get sick or injured and they aren't properly insured and they end up having to lose the house, or maybe they have to sell the house because they're in these types of situations?
I haven't seen that, Jamie, for years, not since the Great Recession. We had a lot of that in 2008, 9, and 10. But in Denver in particular, housing equity, and actually this is a national statistic, housing equity is at an all-time high. So there are a lot of people with a whole lot of equity out
Mm-hmm.
there, and they don't lose their houses. I mean, there's a small foreclosure.
Or
There's
so maybe
always
they can downsize if they need to because they can use
Mhm.
that equity to buy another home or something.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's, I guess, a good thing. So, as someone who runs a company that also includes mortgage, insurance, commercial divisions, have you seen how disruption in one area of somebody's professional life can cascade into other areas of their lives?
Well, it
Like,
will cascade into other areas. And our mortgage and our insurance and our brokerage division are all separate. We're all a part of the same company, but each model is different. So our mortgage providers and our insurance agents have a totally different setup with how they're employed. So it's not apples to apples in terms of how the real estate agents are employed or not employed.
yeah.
And so it's a different structure, I guess I'll just say. But in terms of cascading through life, I can think of an example a few times when we've had agents who have gotten divorced. And that's just wreaked havoc on their lives. And one of them that I'm thinking of right now, he was divorced during the Great Recession
Oh,
when the real
God.
estate market was way down. But 2007 was his best year to date ever. Back then, it was a really great year. And so then his responsibility, his obligation to his former wife was based on this super high
Oh,
production year.
no. On his really good year.
Yeah, and then the market crashed, and so then the opposition counsel was thinking he was hiding money in Switzerland or something, and I had to testify saying that he wasn't. It was legitimately one of the worst years of real estate in the history since the Great Depression
That's really
happened.
unfortunate. Like, I think,
Mhm.
like, I know when somebody applies for insurance and says, well, here's my income, like in real estate, they look at like the last 3 years and average it because it can be so up and down.
Mhm.
And I'm surprised they
Yeah.
didn't do that in a divorce because if they
Oh,
averaged, you
yeah.
know,
They might have taken 2 years. I don't know. But and
oh,
and the other thing too about divorce, which happens a lot, it's happened to me, and so I can empathize with that, is you'll have another after your divorce, post-divorce, you have a rough year or two. You're just not in the mindset, really. I mean, maybe some people are excited and happy, but in general, even if you wanted the divorce, it's super disruptive
well, it takes
to
such
your
a big
life.
emotional toll and time.
Yeah.
And if your time and energy and emotions are towards something else, again, you're not prospecting, you're not showing homes, you're not doing
Right.
all of those things, and it can impact your
Well,
business.
and you probably, you may have lost half of your savings for your house, or your IRA. If you're an agent, you don't have a 401k, but it's just you're really starting from scratch. You're starting over. And so
And you
that's
guys
another
probably
time.
see, yeah, and you probably see a lot of clients who are going through that because maybe they have to sell the house as part of the divorce or the
Hmm.
death in the family or something like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and so it may not be the opportune time to sell it. They're selling it
Hmm.
in 2008 when the value's down,
Correct.
so that can
Yeah.
impact, the value, and it's not always the best time. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So you're really working with people at pretty emotional times. And it could also be a pretty emotional, positive time,
Yeah.
but, sometimes it's a really negative time, which makes them need to buy a house or sell a house.
Yeah, I mean, we have people who are getting married, and these are agents too. You know, the independent contractors are not just our clients, but they're getting married and they're having babies and they have really exciting things happening, but also that impacts income, sometimes positively.
So how do you like kind of, so you probably don't have as many new agents, but like maybe kind of go back when you were first starting, like how do you prepare and save those first few years when the income is just
Yeah.
really erratic?
Well, I didn't. When I started in real estate, I was a single mom, as you know, with a young son going through a divorce. And I didn't sell a house for the first 6 months and was terrified. Fortunately, had a family that, you know, parents that supported me and believed that I could make it in real estate and helped me. They actually underwrote the mortgage on the house that I bought after my divorce because I was like one of those people that you mentioned. I had to sell the marital home. We couldn't afford, neither one of us could afford to buy the other one out back then. And so I had to sell that house and bought a little teeny house, a cute little adorable house that I called my divorce chick's house. And my parents, you know, wrote the mortgage on it. It was at the prevailing rate and I had to pay them every month, but I knew I had a backstop and I had no income for 6 months until I had my first closing. And so it was a
Wow.
little scary, but I got to know
Yeah.
you pretty early on. So I think I called you pretty early and said, like, you got me my disability insurance pretty early. And that was
You did.
a smart
Yeah.
move. I haven't needed it, but I'm always grateful I have it.
Fortunately. Do you think a
Mhm.
lot of realtors do protect their income? Do you think it's something that they think about?
Not enough. I think a few think about it. I don't think enough think about it. They're
Yeah.
optimists.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, I mean, it's so interesting because it's so variable in different professions. Like some professions, like dentists, every dentist gets a disability policy because they know they're at a high risk. But I think a lot of realtors, do you think it's just the mindset, like you said, they're just optimistic and they just think,
Mhm.
nothing will happen to me, or I've got
Yes.
equity in my home, or I'll be okay.
And I can always work. I mean, they're hustlers, you know, they're out there really working hard. It's not an easy way to make a living, despite public perception of it.
Perception,
It's
yes.
a very, very hard job. But they're passionate and they love their clients and they love what they do. And this goes for commercial brokers too. We have a commercial division as well as a residential division, and it's the same. You know, they love what they do, but I think they think I'll always be able to sell a house.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But the skills that it takes, I mean, it can be very physical too.
Mhm.
It requires a tremendous amount of energy and getting
Mhm.
around and being able to go up and down stairs in a house and showing, that it's pretty physical, isn't it? It can be.
Very, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're pulling up corners of the carpet and
And time consuming too,
yeah,
working a lot of
very
weekends and everything else. Yeah.
right.
So yeah. Um, all right, so we're going to take a break. Let me just see what time it is. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, Gretchen Rosenberg will share what she wishes more professionals understood about protecting an income that has and working with people with no built-in safety net, and why the assumptions that come with success can be the most dangerous ones. Okay, 20. Okay. All right, we're back with Gretchen Rosenberg, President and CEO of Kentwood Real Estate, Colorado's exclusive affiliate of Home Services of America. And we're talking about what nearly 3 decades of leading commission-based professionals has taught Gretchen about the gap between earning well and being financially protected when your ability gets disrupted. So, a lot of high earners assume their savings or investments will carry them through disruption. From what you've observed, how realistic is that assumption for someone whose income is commission based?
Um, it's it varies. There are a number of our brokers at our company that are just wildly successful and make outstanding incomes and are very savvy at investing and at saving. We see them investing in all sorts of markets, including in real estate, because
Mm-hmm.
it's something they really understand. And they do very well, and they're extremely well protected for anything that would happen. But we also see a number of agents who are, as I said a little earlier, they're optimists. They think they can always work, and willing to hustle, and they don't necessarily do enough to protect themselves. So they're out there protecting their clients and they forget to protect themselves.
And you brought up an interesting point. So a lot of people invest in real estate. So that's actually can be a really good way to create a lot of passive income. Do you think a lot of times people are doing that to create sort of their own retirement or investment portfolio? So if something does happen, they're still going to have that income. Yeah.
They are, yes. So we, in Denver and Colorado, I know all your viewers aren't necessarily here in Colorado, but in Colorado and in Denver in particular, being a landlord has become less and less interesting, let's just say, because of legislation that makes it more difficult to be a landlord. And a lot of tenant rights is just kind of swung. The pendulum always swings, crazy. It's never in the middle. And so we're seeing people divesting of investment real estate in Denver because of that.
Well, that's interesting. So what are they do? I haven't even heard this. So what are they doing to make it more difficult?
Well, what are they doing? Well, the tenant rights bills have made it so that you can't terminate a lease. If we're trying to get leases that are just 11 months or less, because if it's 12 months or more, you really can't get the tenant out unless it's very specific reasons, like you are moving back in, you are undergoing a major renovation, the tenant non-payment, but then you have a duty for a lengthy notice period. And it's becoming
So
kind
you
of
can't get rid of a
tenuous.
tenant unless you have like a specific something on their list reason.
Is correct.
So is that impacting people who have real estate portfolios for income?
Yes. So we're seeing 1031 exchanges or shorter term leases. They can't do Airbnb or VRBO unless it's a primary residence. That's another rule in Denver. So
I didn't know that. So I can't just buy a cute, condo in Cherry Creek and then just stage it and use it only as an Airbnb.
No.
Really? When did that happen?
Oh, several years ago. Quite a while.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that was in
6 or 8 years
Colorado.
ago.
That's really unfortunate. I mean, I know New York has really strict laws. It has to be 30 days or longer. It can't be short-term rentals. So.
Well, and in condos, you mentioned buying a condo. In condos, a lot of the HOA rules will say that you can't do a short-term lease. So it's not only just statute, but it could be the condo rules. So if you're looking at doing something like that, I would suggest you get a lot of very good advice before you make those purchases.
Is it all of Colorado or is it Denver?
Denver primarily, but all of Colorado has a number of these, like Keystone and kind of Summit County. They're having they're seeing a lot of legislation on Airbnb laws. And
I was going to say, because I know a lot of people who own properties up in the mountains and they can rent it out, but I guess maybe you can't do that anymore.
It depends. Depends on where you are. Yeah.
So is that impacting people that are really savvy with real estate and maybe even like commercial real estate, how they're looking at portfolios?
They're doing 1031s into commercial real estate. Single tenant net lease is very popular. So that would be like buying the land that a 7-Eleven is on. And that's very lucrative if you can do that. We have a number of clients that are looking at those.
And then you just lease it out you do a 30-year lease.
You do a long-term lease with the single tenant.
Yeah. Gosh, but that's got to be tough for people. Maybe they want to buy warehouses or, those types of things. Sounds like it's not as easy to do that in Denver.
Well, commercial real estate is different. We're just talking about residential on these rules. So commercial real estate, a number of people who had residential are getting a 1031 exchange into commercial property because it's easier. Do you
think that trend is going to go in other cities?
But not office.
Yeah. Do you think it's happening in other places?
Yeah, it is. It's happening in other places.
Yeah.
A lot of big cities, it's just, they're trying to find that balance of, maintaining properties for tenants. And sometimes they forget that a lot of landlords are just individual owners. They're not all big institutions. And they need their rent to make their own mortgage payments.
And there are people that, would buy a duplex, they live on one side and rent the other, but it sounds like that's not as favorable anymore.
No, you would want to be careful who your neighbor is. Yeah.
Oh, geez. Okay.
We got off topic.
No, it's totally fine. So for listeners who are self-employed or commission-based, whether in real estate or medicine or anything else, what's the one question about their income they should be asking themselves that people don't? Like, what is some advice for somebody? Maybe they used to have a salary and now they're going into a commission type of
I feel
industry.
like that's a question you should answer, Jamie.
Well, I know, but you probably get people that maybe, okay, I'm going to pivot. It's
Yeah.
mid-career. Now I'm going to
Yeah.
go, you know, switch.
We have that. Yes, we see that. A lot of times teachers or former police officers, we have some really great brokers that are former employees in another industry. So you're absolutely right. And they're used to having benefits. They're used to having a salary. When we see someone make a pivot like that, we tell them they need to have probably at least $25,000 or $30,000 sitting in the bank as a cushion before they jump in. You can't start, you won't make money right away. It takes a while. It can take 6 months
Even
as
if
it
you
took
sell
me.
something, there's a delay when you get paid. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So you say 20 to 30,000. Are you considering it based on like 3 months of income, or is it, or like of
Yeah, I mean, I
expenses, or?
think it's just so that you can float yourself, so that you can pay for your expenses, so that at our company, we pay for agents' signs and we pay for their signs to go up and down, but most companies don't. Often they don't pay for that. So you have to be able to pay for your marketing and your advertising and your signs and the gas on your car and your car lease or payment. So you need to be able to they seem to come in sometimes thinking that they're going to get a sale right away, and within 30 days they're going to start having an income, and that's just not always the case.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it could fall through too. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, because I think the mindset of somebody in commissions is totally different than somebody is going into that. And the assumptions are nothing ever goes according to plan.
No, no, it doesn't. That's why we have insurance.
Yeah. So what would you tell your younger self now, like knowing where you are now? Like what advice would you give?
Save better.
Save better? Like in what way?
Don't get divorced. That's expensive.
That's probably one of the most expensive things. But that's a whole other conversation,
Yeah.
how to avoid that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Spend
yeah,
the money on therapy. It's way better, probably.
or just be very careful going into.
Yeah.
Well, I also think, I mean, that does bring up a good point is, if you marry or divorce or who you marry, that could also really impact your
Mhm.
finances.
Yeah.
And do you have somebody you can count on or fall back on, or is it going to end up costing you an arm and a
Mhm.
leg if you end up getting divorced? Because
Yeah.
I've seen that happen to a lot of people. It's very
Yeah.
unfortunate. So just the toll
But
it
I
takes.
wouldn't tell myself not to go into real estate. I I would tell myself to do it again. Like
Yeah.
it's been an amazing career. It was wonderful being an agent. I loved it. I still have probably every single one of my clients, including you, in my phone. And I'll
Oh,
have people call me or text me and say, you might not remember you. I remember every single one. I
oh, that's
remember
so
their
cool.
houses. It was wonderful. And I really enjoyed residential real estate because I love that excitement that people have about making these changes in their lives. And sometimes it's hard, but usually it's exciting. And commercial real estate is a totally different animal. There it's a very business-like. You're calculating cap rates, you're calculating NOI. It's really for someone who's kind of more business minded, or not that residential agents aren't business minded, but
But it's
it's
more
different.
logistics, less relationship
It is, and
oriented.
there's no social work aspect to it, which is what the commercial brokers enjoy.
Oh, really?
Because there's a lot of social work going on in the car when you're driving people around and they're relocating. I had clients once and they were relocating from the Midwest and we couldn't find them a house for months and months. And she started crying in the car. She was like sobbing and we found them a house and they were fine. But I was like, it's okay. I have tissues because people
But
cry.
you probably really get to know people and then like see all of the dynamics on how they're making the decisions and
Yeah.
all of that. You probably really, really get to know people for better
Mhm.
or worse, I'm sure.
It's great. It's great.
Yes.
It's really lovely to be invited into someone's life in that way.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, that's why you're so good at what you do, because you're able to connect with people and help them
Mhm.
find what they want. And we're still in our same house. We're coming up on 20 years.
That's
Because
amazing.
we were going to close on six. I don't know if you remember, but we were going to close on 666, and we're like, maybe we close on the 8th. So yeah, we're coming up on 20 years.
Wow.
So still in the same place, still a great
Wow.
house, no
It
regrets.
is, it is. And your neighbors, my friends that down the street on the corner, they sold not long
They just
ago.
moved. They moved to
Hmm.
Florida. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So haven't met the new people that have moved in. I know they've had a couple parties, but you know, I don't know. I wasn't invited. I'm just kidding. They're younger. They're like teenagers. So, well, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed our conversation and learning more about kind of your journey in real estate. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jamie.